April 30th regular board meeting. We'll start with the roll call.
Board Member Spelling. Board Member Bob Patel.
Here.
Board Member Figueroa.
Present.
Board Member Becker.
Here.
Chair Melendez.
Here.
Board Member Nunez.
Present. Wonderful. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving along, we'll move to the approval of our agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No, Chair, we do not.
Move approval? Oh, thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Please vote.
Board Member Spelling.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Yes.
Board Member Bob Patel.
Yes.
Board Member Figueroa.
Yes.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you. We'll move to board comments and announcements. Do you have any comments or announcements from the board? I personally am really excited for our 5-year anniversary. I know that there's been some initial communications that have gone out about that. Greg, do you have any updates to share today on our anniversary, 5 years?
Thank you, Chair. The update is that we are fully ready to go and we're looking for people to RSVP. We've sent out repeated messages just to get people to RSVP and get an accurate head count, but all things are ready to go and we're excited to host what hopefully will be a really pleasant event for everyone.
Wonderful. Congrats to us, almost 5 years. And now we will move into public comments. Do we have any public comments at this time?
We do have one. Dan Dominguez.
Thank you, Mr. Dominguez.
Very welcome.
Can you hear me? No, doesn't look like it's working. That's good. Okay, perfect. My name is Dan Dominguez, Oceanside resident. I'm also on the Clean Energy Advisory Committee, but I'm here today to speak as a private citizen. I'm also on an ad hoc committee for the Clean Energy Alliance Advisory Committee to analyze and take a look at accounts and arrears from the CEA, which is the reason I'm here today. So I put together a breakdown of the accounts. Staff sent me a breakdown of the accounts that are in arrears for each city, which is very helpful. And looking through it, I noticed a couple of things. And one of the reasons I'm here today is because the city of Escondido has 22% of their accounts are in arrears at greater than 91 days, followed by the city of San Marcos at 16%, 16.3, and then the city of Oceanside at 12.5%. And the reason I felt it important to talk today is because I know that we are having, or CEA is having, an event for the city of Escondido in a couple of weeks. And it might be good to maybe take a look at it and focus at the event on some information on how people can get help with their payments for the CEA. I sent the breakdown to Ms. Alacon, but I had a senior moment that did not transfer the board. So with that, if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Next, we'll move to the approval of our minutes for March 26th, 2026. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move. Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
Board Member Spellich.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Yes.
Board Member Bob Patel. Yes. Board Member Figueroa.
Yes.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Moving now to our consent calendar, we have 5 items on the consent calendar. Do we have any speakers on any of these items?
We don't have speakers on any item.
All right, so I'd ask the board to look over and see if we have a motion to approve the consent calendar. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, please vote.
Board Member Spellich. Board Member Nunez.
Yes.
Board Member Bob Patel. Aye. Board Member Figueroa.
Yes.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. We'll move into our first reports from our Chief Executive Officer. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Chair Melendez, members of the board. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. This is just a review of our statistics, customer enrollment, and then we'll get into a couple other items. As you can see, we're close to 257,000 customers, just shy of that. We still are maintaining a 93% participation rate. Notice the 50% renewable clean impact product has increased slightly, and I'll get to that in a little bit at the end of this presentation. Staff has been very active this month, as I'm sure you can be, or sure you're aware of, that this is the Earth Month and Earth Day was celebrated this month, so we had quite a bit of activity. This is just an overview of some of the events that staff participated in, trying to spread it out through all our member agencies. We have several events coming up as well, including one this evening, for which we are sponsored, Raise the Fields, and you can see that the activity is not slowing down here in the spring, and we're out and about in the community and happy to be engaged this way. We, as part of our rate relief credit during the approval, the board was asking about engagement with our community, and as part of that plan, we are hosting webinars to understand, for customers to understand their bill, first of which is on Thursday, May 21st, we're having 2 back-to-back sessions. These are virtually hosted on Zoom. We will offer them in English and Spanish. And as I mentioned, this is to advise community members of ways in which they can help reduce their rates, or the advantage they can take of other programs to pay over periods of time through SDG&E, as well as I mentioned, the rate relief credit. By opting down to our clean impact product, as well as bill assistance programs that we will advise the participants about. So again, this is just another way in which we're trying to get the word out about how customers can reduce the costs on their electricity bills. Just an update on our Solar Plus and battery bonus projects, as well as the Connect projects. The Connect, again, are the SCHIP funded components of the Solar Plus and battery bonus projects. As you can see, we have a total of 13 complete Solar Plus projects. Solar Plus Connect, we have 34 applications, which is exciting. We're taking some time at this point because of the PUC is running some funding eligibility analyses to make sure that applicants and the providers are providing accurate information on the cost of those systems. But as you can see in the far right, our Connect program on the battery bonus side is well underway, and we have 26 applications that are active and 30 complete. And slight uptick in battery bonus on the non-SCHIP funded, where we're having applicants actually take advantage of that battery for existing solar systems. One of the ways folks can save money is our demand response program, Peak Smart Savers. It's steadily increasing, not at a fast rate, but we do now have 53 active participants in this program, and all but Solana Beach are represented in that enrollment. Mentioned the rate relief credit, and also during the statistics as far as the slight increase in the clean impact product enrollment. Since February 1st, when the rate relief credit went into effect, we've now had 102 total opt-downs to that product to help folks save some money, 2 of which are commercial and the rest of which are residential. So about, I would say, what we expected. Not a huge amount of opt-downs, but still there are some folks that the word is getting out and people are taking advantage of that opportunity to save a little bit of money during this time of increased energy costs. And that concludes the CEO report. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Any questions for Greg?
I don't have any questions, but I just want to highlight that I was able to attend the CEA sponsorship night at Broadway, Virginia at the end of March, and I thought it was a great event. It was actually my first time there, and I thought our Chair Melendez and Vice Chair Garcia did a great job representing us at the game, so keep up the great work.
I've been practicing my handshake.
Thank you. That was a great event. I think the sponsorships are going really well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful report. We'll go ahead and move along to new business with a regulatory update.
Thank you, and I'm going to turn this over to Jake Schlesinger from Keaton Fox, who's online. Jake?
Hello, can you all hear me and see me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. I believe you have my PowerPoint slide. There we go. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Melendez, Vice Chair Garcia, members of the board, Jake Schlesinger with Keys and Fox. Thank you for having me back to provide another regulatory update. I'm going to do it a little bit differently this month. Instead of focusing on specific dockets, I'm going to focus instead on an issue that is being pursued in multiple regulatory venues. So I'll kind of get to that. We're going to talk today about access to real-time interval meter data. We'll talk about what interval meter data is, why it's important for CCAs, why it's important for customers, and then we'll get into a little bit on the various regulatory venues in which we are pursuing advances on this issue. Next slide, please. So generally, interval meter data is granular time-stamped energy record. So it gives you a view as to how much electricity and how much power a customer is using during a set period of time. Typically, advanced smart meters record this information in fixed intervals of 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 60 minutes. And what you get is kind of this chart on the right, where you can see this is just an example for a typical residential customer in Southern California. You can take a look and understand that at 6 a.m., they were close to their peak usage of 6 p.m., primarily driven by heating load and by hot water heating loads. So these meters can both record the amount and the quality of the power that's being used at any given time. Modern smart meters, the type that SDG&E is planning to replace across its service territory, are also capable of this type of load disaggregation, where the meter can actually tell with reasonable certainty which loads are being used at any given time. And obviously, having this kind of insight into customer usage can be really valuable for a number of applications. Obviously, it can help customers save money by avoiding using electricity during high-cost time of use periods. It can also help customers maximize their utilization of on-site generation or on-site battery storage, as well as just helping customers understand when they're using electricity as compared to the carbon intensity of the electricity at that given time. So a lot of uses to help customers save money and to help California achieve its renewable energy and carbon reduction goals. Next slide, please. So as load serving entities, this data can be very useful to CCAs. CCAs do get this data currently, but they get this data about 2 to 3 days after it's recorded, whereas SDG&E and other IOUs are typically able to view this data in real time or near real time. Being able to view it in real time or near real time is a big difference. It allows the load serving entity to be more effective in procuring energy, understanding in real time what loads are on the system and what their needs are, allows CCAs and other load serving entities to encourage their customers to utilize more renewable energy, meeting climate and greenhouse gas goals, and to optimize battery storage. CCAs, as you know, design programs. Greg was just talking about the demand response program, other EV programs that are very dependent on when customers use electricity. So having that real-time data allows those programs to be more effective. Next slide, please. And then sort of on the other side of the coin, customers need to have access to their own real-time meter data so that they can respond both to price signals that they get so that they can understand electricity is more expensive right now. They can look and see what loads they're using, how much power they're using overall, and they can adjust their usage to save money. And then, of course, to respond to those demand response programs and renewable energy price signals as well. Thank you. So just to touch on the various proceedings in which this is coming up right now, I'd say first and foremost is the smart meter replacement proposal from SDG&E, which I referenced earlier. SDG&E installed smart meters about 15 years ago. Those are becoming obsolete. They are failing in some cases. So SDG&E is proposing to replace those meters at a cost of $825 million, which would be paid for by both CCA and bundled customers as it is a distribution expense. The new smart meters, the smart meter 2.0 meters that they are planning to replace or that they'd like to use to replace are more advanced. The load disaggregation that I mentioned earlier, the ability for those meters to tell what loads are being used when is an advance. And also these meters are capable of transmitting data via a Wi-Fi signal that a customer could pick up in their own home using their laptop or some other device, smart thermostat. So it allows the meter to connect and communicate directly with customers in the home. And that is an important feature of smart meters generally. And the commission required, when it allowed SDG&E to roll out its first round of smart meters 15 years ago, required that customers be able to capture that meter data in real time through their own customer devices. Unfortunately, it's not clear to us in reviewing SDG&E's application whether they're continuing to propose to enable that functionality. So the meters are capable, but it's not clear that SDG&E is proposing to enable that functionality. So that's an important issue that we'll be pursuing in this proceeding. And then, of course, the other issue is the CCA's access through back office systems. SDG&E is not proposing any innovations to allow for that, but that is, of course, a key issue for the San Diego CCAs that we're going to continue to pursue. Also, SDG&E, sorry, still on that last side, SDG&E has proposed new demand flex rates. These are dynamic rates. In this case, they're proposing a day-ahead hourly price signal for the generation portion of the rates. Again, CCAs get this data 2 to 3 days in arrears, so setting day-ahead hourly pricing that is accurate is basically impossible for CCAs. So to the extent that these demand flex rates get approved, it will not be possible for the CCAs to set their own generation day-ahead rates. And then there are 2 CPUC rulemakings going on right now. where these issues are also being addressed. One is 2025 rulemaking to enhance demand response in California. The Commission has explicitly scoped into that proceeding the question of what standardized data systems, communication protocols, and data transfer processes need to be adopted in order to facilitate accurate demand response and dynamic rates. So that is good. We appreciate that the Commission recognizes that this is a necessary component, but it is only covering a portion of the issue. It covers the issue from the perspective of demand response, but not so much the perspective of procurement. There's also this new rulemaking, R2604-009, to examine advanced electric rate design. The Commission is looking to establish new policies to update residential and non-residential rate structures. And of course, the message that we will be delivering to the Commission in that proceeding is that we need this real-time data access to make those rate signals accurate and actionable for customers. And then finally, on the last slide here, I'll talk about the CEC load management standards. CEC load management standards already require large CCAs, including CEA, to apply for and then to offer customers voluntary participation in at least one dynamic rate. As I've mentioned like 3 times now, that's almost impossible for CEA and other CCAs to comply with because we lack access to that real-time data. Fortunately, the CEC seems to be recognizing that now after several years of working with CCAs on this issue. And so they recently, at the beginning of this month, approved to reopen the LMS rulemaking with a pre-rulemaking process and then a formal rulemaking process to begin in 2027. And the number one reason that they listed in their notice as to why they want to reopen this rulemaking is to address these data access gaps. So appreciate that CEC is looking into this issue and will continue to push this there as well. That is all I have, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Well, I appreciate the briefing, and I think we can all agree that access to data is very important, so I appreciate you following that for us. Next, we will go ahead and move on to item 8.
Thank you. I'm going to turn this over, Chair and members of the board, to Andy Stern, who will introduce the consultant that we are hoping to bring aboard. And Andy, go ahead.
Thank you. Members of the board, in the past few years, a number of CCAs have entered into what are known as prepayment transactions. You may have heard of them. If CEA enters into one, in summary, we would prepay for a long-term supply of electricity and fund that prepayment with tax-exempt municipal bonds. The transactions are somewhat complicated, but we've already entered into a couple of energy contracts recently that are set up to easily be included in a prepayment transaction. And if and when we do enter into one, it would save CEA a lot of money, likely millions of dollars a year. Today, this item is on the agenda for 2 reasons. The first is you're being asked to approve a professional services agreement with PFM Financial Advisors. PFM has a lot of experience with working with CCAs, advising CCAs, and assisting them in shepherding a transaction to a successful completion. And while we are requesting approval of this agreement as this resolution, the amount included in the agreement is actually only paid to PFM if and when a transaction is consummated. So it's contingent on a transaction. And the second reason that's on the agenda is we've asked Mike Berwanger, who's the managing director of PFM, to provide an overview of how these transactions work and what the benefits are, and provide any answers to any questions you might have. So Mike, go ahead, have at it.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon. Hopefully I'm coming through okay. Mike Berwanger at PFM, as Andy mentioned, I am the managing director. I'm responsible for our West Coast community choice aggregation practice, as well as our West Coast public power practice. I've been doing this a long time. I prefer not to say exactly how long. A little sensitive about the age these days, but we've had the good fortune of working with a number of your peers throughout the state on a number of things. Frankly, energy prepayments happen to be dominating this, you know, but what everybody's doing lately. We've had the good fortune of helping many folks get lines of credit at launch, as well as getting ratings for many of your peers as well when the time is appropriate. So we spent a lot of time working with the CCA community and are excited to be coming on board, hopefully, to help you at least analyze this opportunity and potentially move forward with it. Um, with that, we can flip to the first slide. So, just real high level, what are we talking about here? Our goal would be, as Andy mentioned, to reduce the cost of your power purchases on your existing power purchase contracts by 8% or more, depending upon what this looks like and market conditions that could range from $4 to $5 million a year. So that is the opportunity that we could pursue. How are we going to do that? You are a municipal utility. You have the ability to sell tax exempt debt to fund various things, asset purchases, building assets, as well as the purchase of your energy. Um, Unlike many of the water, wastewater, and power utilities that you might be familiar with in the municipal sector, general governmental sector, CCAs do not own assets as of yet. You're just simply buying energy from existing solar projects, wind projects. You can still use tax exempt, your ability to borrow tax exempt to secure that long-term supply of energy through what is known more commonly as an energy prepayment transaction. So this isn't new, as Andy noted. This has been around since the 1990s. Originally, folks did these for natural gas transactions. The IRS code that applies to these transactions allows for natural gas and for energy to be prepaid. Um, Most of the folks that did this were folks down in the southeast that supply gas to the home. They did these in the 90s, 2000s, and so on. It wasn't until maybe about 5, 6 years ago that that same financial technology that had been around for natural gas was sort of applied to energy purchases. And it was actually the CCA community that really led the charge to both figure out how to apply this to energy. And then, as you can see, really have just kind of run with the opportunity since 2021 when the first transactions were done. And there have now been 28 transactions for 27 billion across 12 other community choice programs in the state of California, really by far outpacing the public power entities in California nationally, really just taking advantage of the opportunity. And you can flip to the next slide, you'll see, actually the next two slides are sort of the same. It's just sort of, it's an articulation going back to the original deals of just what these have looked like. You can actually flip to the next slide. What you'll notice when you go through that are a couple things, and really just focused on the savings. We're kind of managing expectations, saying it could be 8% or more. Almost every single one of these has produced 10% or more. Some of them, significantly higher than that, just depending upon sort of market conditions. But what we're really proud of, having done many of these with your colleagues, around the state, is that we're up to $170 million of annual savings to customers by these transaction structures. So, should you pursue it, it's a well-worn path. You'd have plenty of company. Not that that's why you should pursue it, but I think folks don't necessarily want to be the first or the second. You'd rather be let somebody else maybe sort of figure it out. And this has definitely been figured out. So if you flip to the next slide, in order to proceed, you need to bring on sort of folks that can help you do this. You have great staff, great management, you just folks that haven't done this before necessarily. So you know, you're bringing us on, hopefully, to basically serve as your financial advisor. Will advise on the structure, will help put the entire team together, will be on your side of the table the entire way through. We have a fiduciary responsibility to Clean Energy Alliance. Need to put your interests ahead of ours. That is codified. We take that very seriously. Um, you walking through, everybody needs good lawyers, especially on these transactions. So we'll help you, through whatever process you need to go through to sort of bring on requisite counsel. There's counsel that advises you on the structure. There's bond and tax counsel. We'll need to bring on a bank to help facilitate the sale of some bonds. We'll get to that in a second. Banking institution to help with the flow of funds. You also utilize a conduit issuer to do this. We've actually identified that entity on the slide because if you noticed on the other couple slides with that list, there is an entity that exists called the California Community Choice Financing Authority, CCCFA for short. This entity was actually created by four CCAs, Ava, Silicon Valley, 3CE, and Marin created the entity for the express purpose of allowing CCAs throughout the state of California to do energy prepayment bonds. No other purpose. So everybody has gone and joined CCCFA to pursue this through them, taking advantage of that framework that's been established. As Andy mentioned, our costs, as well as many of the legal and the other costs that would be associated with these entities you bring on, will be contingent. I think, again, the folks that have done this before you have done a really good job of not taking risk to the structure or to sort of the cost to put the structure together. So there's no out-of-pockets by Clean Energy Alliance other than sunk costs for staff. There is a fee to join CCCFA that is non-recoverable. And at some point, if we go to the rating agency for a rating on the bonds, you would be responsible for that fee. What I would say is both for CCCFA and the rating agencies, you'll see a general timeline later. We're going to wait as long as possible, make sure that everybody's comfortable and that we're moving forward and delay those costs out, that cost expenditure until the last possible second so that you're not really taking risk. So generally, you'll be out of pocket very, very little funds if you move forward. And then even if you don't, there's very little in terms of anything you'd be on the hook for, so to speak. If you flip to the next slide, kind of drill down just a little bit. I'd like to start with sort of where are you today? You have a variety of contracts with existing electricity suppliers, developers, wind projects, solar projects, whatnot, where you're paying for energy that you receive. If you receive the energy, you pay for it. If you don't receive the energy off of that project, you don't make a payment. If you pursue the prepay structure, that dynamic does not change. There are more boxes, yes, and I'll get to those in a second, but you will fundamentally continue to simply pay for energy that you receive. What will be different is you'll be paying for that energy at a discount than what you're previously contracted for. Contracted for $100 on your existing contracts, you save 10%, you're only paying 90. How we will accomplish that is by utilizing the CCCFA. We will be assigning the existing agreements to the electricity supplier that you choose, who will be delivering the energy to CCCFA, who will ultimately send it back to you. So the same energy that you're contracted for today will be the same energy that you receive on the other side of the structure. It will go through a couple of extra steps, but it will be the same energy. Nothing happens to the energy. It's still the same megawatts, the same flavor and color of megawatts that you're getting now. Again, you'll be paying your discounted price to CCCFA for that energy. And the way the discount is created is because CCCFA, on your behalf, and at your participatory in the process. You don't just hand it to them. You sort of help them through the process. They will sell non-recourse tax-exempt debt to investors in order to make a prepayment to the supplier for that supply of energy. So they are paying up front, and in return for paying up front, they're getting a discount. Um, it's really important to note that the debt is the debt of the CCCFA. Clean Energy Alliance is not responsible for the debt. It is non-recourse. You're responsible for paying for energy that you receive and nothing more. If there's ever a problem with the structure, you are not responsible for repaying the debt. There is no recourse from the bondholders back to Clean Energy Alliance, but for if you get power, you need to pay for the energy that you are receiving, which is exactly where you sit today with your existing suppliers. We can flip to next slide. Just drilling down, we get the question all the time, okay, Mike, that sounded great, but we should maybe help us out a little bit with where are the savings exactly coming from? Um, so that bank counterparty who will be receiving the prepayment of funds, they have a higher cost of capital. The cost to run their business is 5%. The CCCFA will sell tax-exempt bonds that cost a lot less than 5%. In this example, 425. The difference between that 5% rate and that 425 rate is where the savings are generated. Excel or cash flows may not be everybody's forte, but if you look at the little graphic below and you can imagine some cash flows, you have your existing power costs. If they're discounted at a high rate at 5%, you will come up with a smaller number that will be then financed at a lower rate at 425. So you were paying 45 before, you'll effectively be paying 40 after the transaction, and that is where the $5 million in potential annual savings would be generated. And that's quoted of all the upfront costs for all the legal and the rating and ourselves. So we can flip to the next slide. Oops. Okay. So if you're bringing us on today, we will get to work with the team to put together, procurement for all of those other working group members over the course of the next month. Once everybody is together, we will continue, we'll start the process of putting together the transaction. That can take anywhere from 2 to 3, 4 months, just depending. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of documentation. Along the way, folks will come back, management will come back and ask, for approval to join the CCCFA. And then at some point, when everything is in near final form, all documentation, we would come back for board approval at that point and then move forward with finalizing the transaction. We're, again, depending upon how things go, we're saying that might be as early as July. If it's August or September, it's kind of the way it takes. Sometimes it takes more time. People are on vacation or whatnot. But at some point, we will be back with everything. And at that point, once you're approved, we'd be in the market, hopefully execution, and you'd begin saving money within a couple months. I think that was my last slide, and certainly happy to ask any questions or go anywhere else, Andy, that I might have jumped over too quickly.
No problem. Thank you so much, Mike. Happy to have you in today. I'll see that there's a number of board members who want to make comments, but I understand that this energy prepayment transactions are a financing method to buy those larger volumes of energy and provide a cost savings overall. Really happy to hear what you've been able to do for some of our neighbors. My question is regarding our credit rating, and this is one of the topics that we've discussed lightly as a board, but now that we're potentially bringing on these advisors, great to get a little bit more detail. This might be a good question for Andy. What's the current status of CEA's credit rating, and how would PFM be supporting us in that process?
Well, I'll take a first stab and then Mike, maybe you can add on. We, as you know, we're doing our best to create a financially stable and sustainable and validatable financial model and hit forecast. At this point, we're on good track for getting an investment grade credit rating. My estimate is we're probably 15 to 18 months away, but it's possible that it's sooner depending on how things play out. But we're going to start our conversations with rating agencies probably in the next 6 to 9 months, just to get a sense of for them about what they're looking for. This transaction doesn't really affect that. The bonds are a separate transaction. There's nothing that appears on our balance sheet. The only effect that I can think of is that we will be expecting to have savings from our related to our financial model, and therefore we would have a more positive outlook of a few $1,000,000 a year, whatever we end up saving in the prepayment transaction, which should help in our investment grade credit rating. But that this bond transaction or prepayment transaction is completely separate. Rating agencies, although they get involved, but they're only involved to the extent that they're rating the bonds, and they're not really our bonds, they're CCFA's bonds. So the question, while it's the same words of rating agency, it's not the same rating. It's not the same rating vehicle that is being rated. Mike, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was great. I think again, we will get a rating. It's not your rating. It's going to be a rating on the bonds, and it will be the rating of the bank, basically, because you have no responsibility on the debt.
Thank you. Any comments, questions from the board? Yes, Alex.
Yeah, I have a question. Is this is a one-time borrowing? Is that the idea?
Many CCAs have been doing multiple prepayment transactions. Typically, the banks that sponsor these, which is most likely JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs is it Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan?
Morgan Stanley,
Okay, Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs have done the bulk of these transactions. The most CCAs have done, they typically look for a size of a transaction to be at least 500 million or more. Some CCAs have done bigger ones than that, but typically 500 million to $1 billion of energy transactions. We now have a couple of energy transactions that add up to that amount, that are positioned to be able to put into a transaction, which would enable us to do our first. Once we do the first, there's a lot of education for the board and for staff. And once we do the first, and this is typical of most CCAs, Orange County Power Authority did their first a few months ago, and they're already in the process to do their second, because once you get educated and understand how to do it, it's much easier to do the second and the third and the fourth. A number of CCAs have already done multiple transactions, and we would expect, as we continue to sign additional PPAs, we would also add those to our portfolio of prepayment transactions down the road as well.
So you're seeing this as almost like a revolving credit sort of thing. What I'm trying to get at is bonds are such a nightmare for certain government agencies. I know in our case, in our city, we chose to go to iBank because it was quicker, better terms, and quite frankly, it was a much more expedited transaction. I was curious, and I don't understand why you can borrow bonds and have it not hit your credit rating. So maybe you can help me with that. But I'm just wondering why would you, if this is a one-time transaction, and which is then paid back through rates, I'm assuming, why wouldn't you go to an iBank type situation because your collateral, I assume, would be your accounts receivable. I'm just curious about that.
I'll let you go, Mike.
Yeah, I could jump in there, Andy. Thank you. Yeah, no, great questions. So the iBank would be great. They're not positioned for a transaction like this. We do have clients in the CCA community that are actively talking to the iBank for something that's more traditional and more akin to some of the programs that they offer, which is, potential asset purchases. I agree with you. I've had a number of clients go to the iBank, and there's pros and cons, and there's a lot of pros. Unfortunately, for something like this, it's a little bit overly structured for somebody like the iBank and the programs that they presently offer. Um, the if you go back a slide just with the box diagrams, one more, sorry. Just in terms of, the CCCFA is issuing the debt. Um, CCCFA is pledging to pay that debt with the payments, right? The only money that they have is the money that you're paying them for the energy that they send to you, right? So when they send you the energy and when you pay them for that, they'll have the money to pay the debt service to investors. Um, they're not responsible ultimately, right? They have a contract with a supplier for that energy. So they're really a pass-through entity that's a facilitator. The supplier who could default, and if there was a problem, it would be with the supplier where they defaulted and failed to send you energy, they went bankrupt or whatever happened. It would actually be the way the fund flows work. The only recourse from the bondholders is to CCFA is to a termination payment that is required to be made by that electricity supplier to CCCFA, which would cover the amount of debt that's outstanding. That's the only source of actual collateral or funds that are available to repay the debt if there's a problem. And that's why it's rated that electricity, so that bank's rating. And that's why you're not responsible for it, which is essentially how you can, have CCCFA sell bonds that you're not, there's no recourse, there's no responsibility to you. It doesn't impact your rating. You're not pledging anything other than, your contract with CCCFA is purely for power delivery. It's going to be very similar to the contract you have with existing suppliers.
I want to also jump into one thing you said, which is that bond transactions can be complicated. They can be complicated. However, these kinds of transactions are particularly complicated. However, for CEA, it is actually very uncomplicated. Um, and that's because the transaction is complicated, but for CEA, it's not. We get energy delivered and we make a payment. We're just paying somebody different than we were paying before. So, and there's no monitoring, there's no meeting with rating. I've been responsible in a prior life for issuing tax exempt bonds too, and there was a lot of administration, a lot of educating bondholders about where we were and what was going on and how we were doing, but none of that, again, because of the complexity of this, and because of CCFA being as part of this, the impact to CEA is no different than it would have been on the top line versus the bottom.
Thank you, Ms. Welch, for those questions. Any other questions from the board? Thank you. I'm really appreciative of the CCAs that have gone before us and figured this out. So I like this program. I think you answered this. It seems that we are buying enough energy to go it alone. We're not combining with another CCA, I guess, which is good news. So that's good that we've grown that much. I sometimes just wonder about when you talk about like the $50,000 fee just to become a member. Do they ever think about like, we're one of the smallest, I don't know, for the smallest CCA, certainly Solana Energy Alliance, paying that 50,000 would have been hard. So do they ever consider, a sliding scale on those type of fees at all? Or is it that's just too ridiculous?
Yeah, I let Mike after I jump in. I know some of the people that have actually that started CCFA, and their view of this is it's the same amount of work for a
Yeah.
transaction that is small versus large, and it's the same amount of payments and in and outs that happen. So they've created this very simple structure. It's when, if we're saving, it's a one-time fee of 50,000. We don't, as Mike mentioned, we don't pay it up front. We don't pay it until the middle of the process. Um, and relative to saving, likely, and we wouldn't go forward unless we had the expectation we wouldn't be here if we didn't have the expectation of saving
A
millions of
lot.
dollars a year. And we wouldn't go forward to come to request the payment to CCFA, which is going to happen in a few months, well, which would happen in a few months, unless we still have that expectation of a few $1 million a year. And then once we have that expectation, it's 50,000, but pales in comparison to what, and it's only a one-time fee versus the savings that happen every year.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Andy and Mike. I just had one follow-up. Appreciate all the discussion. And this is to do with the amounts and the limits of these prepayments. Just want to make sure I understand it correctly. Andy, you described, up to $1 billion in solicitations, as a CCA. But then I heard before from Mike's presentation, maybe this is not a limit, but $4 to $5 million a year in prepayments. Can you help me understand those numbers a little bit more?
Yeah, well, once you go back a couple of slides to the list of transactions, if I said that the limit was $1 billion, then I misspoke. Just on this page, you can see the range of 493 million to 1.3 billion. So kind of a target range. There's certainly no absolute limit to how much, and there's no minimum. However, at less than that, organizations like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley don't do this for cheap. Their payments come out of the bond transaction, but they're not doing it for cheap. And it at less than $500 million or $500 million, it probably doesn't make sense to us and to other CCAs to do a transaction. And also, they end up selling bonds to bondholders, and that they need a certain amount of bonds to be sold and bought by those institutional buyers that are out there. So the typical transactions are somewhere between 500 million and $1 billion, but you can see there's no absolute minimum that is 500 million, and there's no absolute maximum that it's 1 billion. You asked, I think, a second part of this question that yeah, the annual savings have to do with that. That typically at somewhere pick a number of $750 million for a typical transaction. If the savings is about 10% a year, that works out to be in a typical transaction to be about $4 to $5 million. Well, for what are they, 20-year bonds or 30-year bonds, Mike?
30.
30-year bonds, yeah. So if Mike could show you the math if we want in another transaction, another meeting if we want, but take a $750 million transaction, spread it over 30 years, save 10% of the savings, and it works out to be somewhere in the $4 to $5 million a year savings because of the interest rates. That's how the math works.
That's helpful. And then just kind of follow up with that. Are we expecting to cover all of our purchases with these bonds, or are we expecting that there's a limit to how much is going to be bond funded and any remaining is not bond funded.
Well, there's theoretically no limit, but only certain types of transactions can be done. One, the agreement has to be assignable by the energy supplier or amended to be assignable. We have been writing our transactions recently, most of CEA's life to be assignable. So those transactions are. Two, they need to be longer term agreements, 10 or more years. And we do have a contract with Darden that you've heard about that is supposed to start up sometime, I think, next year. That is multi-years, that is a candidate for inclusion. And then, hedge transactions that we typically do right now are not going to be able to be because they're typically only 1 or 2 years type 1 year at a time transactions, so they're not likely to be. So until we have over the life of CEA more power purchase agreements for solar or wind or offshore something or hydropower, something like that. Those are the kinds of transactions that might be able to be put in, but we don't have very many of those since we're not very we've been in business very, very long that we have very many yet.
Yeah, okay, well, that's very helpful. I support this item, appreciate all the clarification. I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the resolution for professional services with PFM for this item, and that's the second from Vice Chair. Could we vote, please?
Board Member Spellich. Board Member Rodriguez.
Yes.
Board Member Patel.
Hi.
Board Member Figueroa.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for all for
Thank
being
you.
here. Thank you, Andy. All right, now we'll move on to item 9.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Before I start this item, which is to consider a memorandum of understanding between Clean Energy Alliance and Encina Wastewater, I wanted to welcome and introduce the general manager from Encina, Scott McClellan, who's with us today, and the newly appointed assistant general manager, Dan King, who's here as well. So thank you for being here, and I'm sure they'll be happy to answer any questions you might have for them at the end of this. By way of background, Encina Wastewater Authority is located in our service territory in the city of Carlsbad, just west of Interstate 5 and south of Palomar Airport Road. We have been working with them and talking about exploring potential collaboration on their site, whether it be a combination of energy generation or battery storage, looking for land and facilities and those kinds of things. And that brought us to this potential project. Encina has initiated a phase 1 biogas to energy project on their site. That they're also looking at a phase 2 treatment that will create additional biogas that can be potentially used to generate renewable energy on site. And so they'll have an excess of that beyond that which they need to support their operations. We're hopeful that there could be a creation of about 4 megawatts of renewable energy generation capacity on the site. Could serve CEA customers locally and hopefully meet our local needs for resource adequacy. And we think this would be a valuable project to pursue with our partner at Encina. So the next steps here, one we're asking for is an authorization to execute an MOU, is to approve this MOU and have both parties begin preliminary analyses and technical design, cost and commercial structuring to determine project feasibility. The picture you see here is a high efficiency, low emission linear generator unit, and they're very efficient and effective. They operate at very low heat and are quite efficient, and that's hopefully what we would hope to deploy in this project. There would be a potential financial impact. We have agreed to split costs at 50-50 and cap them for the time being at $50,000. There's a feasibility analysis that still have to be conducted, including looking at grid capacity in the surrounding area, interconnection capabilities through SDG&E application. We believe that there might be some other expenditures, but again, our objective here is to cap those, keep them at a low cost, and split those costs, which for CEA would be incurred primarily in the next fiscal year budget and would be accounted for in that budget, with a small amount potentially, depending on the action taken by the board, being incurred in this current fiscal year. We think this is an exciting opportunity to partner with a local agency on a local renewable project. And we're hopeful that this modest investment in analysis can get us across the next hurdle and move us forward to a project in the near future. So our recommendation is that the board support and adopt Resolution 2026-024 that would approve this MOU with Encina Wastewater Authority and authorize the execution of that MOU. And that concludes the report.
Thank you so much. Great. Thank you for being here today. Do we have any speakers on this item?
We don't have any speakers on this
I
item.
wanted to check, but this is a very exciting exploration. Do we have any questions or comments from the board on this item?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is pretty exciting. Do we have anything that's similar to this at this point?
There isn't anything that I know of specifically. I know that another member agency, EDCO, they have an anaerobic digester on site that they use to convert to fuel their vehicles, but that is not as yet, as I'm aware, of creating or used to generate renewable energy. However, it potentially could.
And I was going to mention EDCO because I know that they do very similar to this, but they just have their vehicles. I think this is a great first step. I think this is a good way to trial this, and I see it potentially getting bigger, especially as the state looks a little bit more into organic compost and really maximizing on that. So this is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree. Any other comments?
Yeah, so I'm so excited that Dan King is here. You were instrumental in our Solana Beach Climate Action Plan and also Solana Energy Alliance. So we might not be here if it weren't for you. So it's interesting that now you're on another project. I know it started probably before you were there, but great to see you on board. And this is super exciting. I know San Diego JPA also has some gas that we might be able to use as well. So I hope it works out. Thank you. Very excited. Yes.
Yes, thank you. This is actually in my district in Carlsbad. So I wanted to make sure that I have an opportunity to ask a couple questions. And then of course, Mr. Wade, maybe we can dive into it deeper offline. But just a quick question. Have there been, and maybe you shared this, I think it might have been a meeting that I didn't have an opportunity to attend, but just curious if there are any adverse impacts associated with any of this. I know folks will ask once it's out there and it's happening, especially because it's in my area. Folks tend to ask a lot of questions around, hey, are there any adverse impacts? So just curious if anyone could share any of that.
Thank you for the question. Appreciate that. I should have also mentioned, by the way, that the board of Encina has membership from the cities of Vista and Carlsbad, which also service our board as well. I probably don't know the best answer to this, but what I can tell you is that Encina in their phase 1 and phase 2 projects are actually reducing emissions at the site. And so from that standpoint, I believe they've gone through that analysis to ensure that there would be no adverse impacts. And again, that's not something that I'm specifically, know a lot about, but I do know that that is part of the implementation of this phase 1 and phase 2 project.
Okay, great, thank you. And yeah, maybe offline, I'd love to chat a little bit more with maybe you all, just so I can make sure I can talk about it with a little bit more understanding. Thank you.
And then if I could add something, actually I did tour EDCO in the facilities. Sort of reminded me that as far as what I've seen and heard, there hasn't been any adverse. There hasn't been drop in property value. There hasn't been any noxious gases or anything like that have come out. So it is similar to what EDCO does. It seems like it is. There doesn't seem to be that adverse effect.
Great
great discussion, and when there are gases, emissions, there can be proximity concerns with that, so totally appreciate that. Any other comments or perhaps a motion to support the MOU? Yeah, so Vice Chair, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Nunez. All right, please vote.
Board Member Spellish.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Yes.
Board Member Palmatello. Aye. Board Member Figueroa.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you, and congratulations and thank you. Appreciate you. All right, we will move on. We're very efficient this meeting. Thank you all. To item 10.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. I have the pleasure of presenting this item for you. An issue is the approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Chief Executive Officer's Employment Agreement. As noted in the staff report, Mr. Wade executed the initial agreement, was appointed by the board in September of 2023 and started his tenure as CEO in February of 2024. As a term of his agreement is that there are annual performance evaluations conducted. In this case, this board has conducted an evaluation in October of 2025 and January of 2026. The board also appointed a subcommittee with Vice Chair Garcia, board members Becker and Patel. The action before you is to approve the Fourth Amendment to the Employment Agreement that results in a 10% increase to the base salary as required by the Brown Act. I have to announce that, which is why this is not on the consent item. I am available for any questions you may have, and I'm assuming the subcommittee is also available to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have members of the subcommittee that would like to share?
Sure, I'll start. I'm happy to move approval of this, and I just want to say, Greg, that you bring so much enthusiasm and energy to this. It's been difficult. It's been a rocky road. We're in a good place right now, and that's because of you, your steady leadership, and I really feel you're bringing a lot of innovative programs to us, and including today about the biogas. Also, when you brought a program for lowering rates for our residents and businesses. So happy to move this and really appreciate the hard work. And also just, we did meet and did the evaluation, and immediately some of the things that we might have said, we'd like to hear more, from you. That was immediate in the way of some emails, and they're very lengthy, but I appreciate all the time.
Careful what you wish for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other members? Member Garcia?
Yes, thank you. Can we get a recap just for everyone's edification, how we got that 10%? I can fill in the blanks, but.
As part of the evaluation process, there was merit based on meeting certain goals and evaluating performance. In addition to that, there was also a review of other CCAs. And it was duly noted that the compensation that CEA has in comparison to other agencies are way below the median. And as noted, we are smaller, but it doesn't mean that the work is any less. So in this particular case, it was level setting based on the growth that CEA has done or that has happened recently and where we are advancing towards. And if there's any other questions on it, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about the median amount that we're looking at other CCAs. And then this is, we also took consideration CPI, cost of everything as well, the increase, inflation and everything. So there's a lot of factors taken into this, and I just wanted to explain to everybody how we got that number. Thank you so much.
Let's see, public discussion. Any other comments from the board or other members? Well, thank you. I'll go ahead and second the motion, and as a public employee, greatly appreciate your dedication to this agency. I'm gonna keep my praise at bay, right? But I especially want to say thank you so much for assisting in the formation of our strategic plan. I think that that is really important for our organization, and it's a point of collaboration between our CEO and the board, and so I appreciate that. So I definitely want to add my second, and go ahead and move forward with the vote. Thank you.
Before the vote is called out, I just need to have that formal report out. So pursuant to the Brown Act, this resolution, subject to the approval of the board, approves the Fourth Amendment to the CEO's employment agreement, providing a 10% salary adjustment that increases the CEO's base salary to $375,000 effective February 1st, 2026. Thank you.
Board Member Spelling.
Aye.
Board Member Nunez.
Yes.
Board Member Baltzell.
Aye.
Board Member Figueroa.
Aye.
Board Member Becker.
Yes.
Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Chair Melendez.
Yes. Thank you. That was our final item. Great job, everyone. I would like to see if there's any requests for future items. Any comments from the board for next meetings? Okay. In that case, we're going to meet at our next meeting on May 28th here. And please RSVP and join us for our 5-year anniversary celebration. Small celebration, but big momentum, 5 years for CEA. Thank you, everyone.